This is the world's most powerful Thunderbolt dock for Apple Silicon Macs, and it is absolutely incredible. It has a ton of features packed in with some very smart, thoughtful design. This is the iVANKY BCD10 docking station with 20 ports built in. Now, if you haven't heard of iVANKY, they have been around for a long time with some of the most popular HDMI and DisplayPort cables on Amazon, very well rated. And they've also made a docking station before that was also specifically designed for MacBooks. And they made this dock to go with those cables in your Macs and be the best dock that you can possibly get. Now, I've been using a dock since I got rid of my Intel Mac Pro, and that thing had a ton of ports built in, which was great, but with most other Macs, you don't have access to all of those ports. And if you want a really nice desktop setup, well, you are very limited, especially with a MacBook. But now, with the iVANKY Docking Station Ultra 20-in-1, you no longer have to deal with any issues, and I'll explain how it improved my setup. And it's just designed to be the heartbeat of blazing performance for your setup, and it's designed for professionals, for creatives, but of course anybody can use it. Now, there's a lot of very impressive things about this, but one of the most impressive is the fact that you can have a quad monitor setup with 4 displays, but you also have HDMI as well. So because of that, you can have your Mac display plus 4 more, which other docks don't do. Now, I want to show you guys what's in the box before covering some of the other really cool things about it. And here's the actual Thunderbolt dock. Man, this thing has some heft to it. I'm going to set that aside and let's open up the inside here. Now, we have a little sheet that gives you some very important information. Because of all the ports that are jam-packed in here, it is important that you know exactly how to best use this, and I'll go over some of this information in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and open up this package right here. We have some warranty information right here, so make sure you guys register to take care of that. We have our user manual. You also get a QR code on the back. And then we get these rubber pads. They give you 4 of them because you can actually set this up to be either horizontal or flat on your desk or standing up. We have this box right here, and this is the power adapter. Now, this thing is a 180 watt power adapter, and it is this size and this power because not only does it power the dock itself, but this thing has a lot of pass-through power for your various devices. And then inside of this last box, this is super cool and very unique. We have this special cable that they created. And as you guys can see, it has dual Thunderbolt cables built into one. And that is because this dock has dual Thunderbolt 4 chips. Now, because of this thing is designed for Apple Silicon Macs. It is not designed for Intel versions because they don't have Thunderbolt 4 and they cannot handle this many ports with this much performance. Of course, you have your power cable and you get an HDMI cable as well. I have to say that the quality is very, very nice on all of these cables. And this plug right here, this is aluminum, not plastic. So you're getting a very nice product. I'll set that aside. And let's go ahead and open up the actual dock itself. Wow, this thing feels solid. It has a nice weight to it. And just like the outside of the cable, this is all aluminum. This is not plastic. Now, you guys can see the design of this. It's very different from all the other docks that are on the market. We have a couple little feet right there with this aluminum that actually separates the actual dock here. A lot of actuals there, but it is a very smart design because that allows heat to dissipate not only from the top and maybe the sides, but from the bottom as well because you have that extra separation, and that's designed to keep all of this performance running a lot cooler than your regular setup. Now, my previous dock, it would get super, super hot, and then I have this CF Express card reader, and I used to put it on top of my dock and it would actually stop working because of how hot it got from all of the heat being trapped. So that is very smart for them to do this. Here we have a couple tips on how to best use this. I'm going to go ahead and take that off right there. You guys see this has 2 downstream ports with that little line around it because you have 2 Thunderbolt chips in here, and that's where we grab our special cable, and that pops right in like that. The other side is perfectly spaced to connect to your MacBook and be able to give you the full performance with all of these ports. Now, with my previous dock, I actually had to split up and connect 2 Thunderbolt cables separately, one that went to my dock and the other one that went to my server, because I use a 6K Pro Display XDR monitor. I have a bunch of other accessories and I actually had issues getting my full bandwidth and the full performance through just one port. So this is a very smart design to make sure that that doesn't happen. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this, and let's go over all of the ports that iVANKY put into this dock. Now on the front here, we have a little LED indicator, and then we have 2 Thunderbolt USB-C ports right here, and both of them are labeled 6K because each one can handle a 6K display. And then right next to that, we have 2 USB Type-A ports. Now the cool thing about this is that they are both 10 gigabit per second. Now many docks might have 1 full speed port. A lot of them will just have 5 gigabit per second ports overall, and this has double the performance for those ports. But not only that, looking lower, we have 2 USB Type-C ports here, and both those are also 10 gigabit per second. So you don't get any slowdowns like you will with other docks because of those dual Thunderbolt 4 chips inside. Now one of them has a little lightning logo, and that's because it outputs more power than the rest of the ports, but all the ports have a good amount of power coming out for charging as well compared to alternative options. Now we also have a headphone jack. This is also a combo mic jack, and we have another headphone jack on the back. So if you want to connect a dedicated microphone, you want to do that to that front port because only the front supports microphones. We also have a UHS Type 2 SD card slot right here and a micro SD card slot. Now some docks will have just one micro or one SD card slot, so it's nice to have both because I do use both of those kind of cards. And then flipping to the back here, we see a bunch more ports. Now I already showed you guys that special connector that they give you. Right next to it, we have the power input, and then we have a Kensington lock right here. So if you want to lock this up so nobody could steal it, you have that option. Now right here, we have 2 more ports for another 2 6K displays. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be 6K, but this is the only dock that I know of that can power 4 displays if you have a MacBook that can support that, which I'll go over the compatibility list in just a bit. Now, right next to it, we have 2 4K 60 FPS HDMI ports, so you don't have to use the USB-C DisplayPort ports for that. Now here we have 3 more 10 gigabit per second USB Type-A ports. That is crazy impressive because no matter where you plug in, you're gonna get the full performance. You don't have to compromise. And then we have an Ethernet port. Now this is another cool thing because a lot of docks that have a good amount of ports, well, they have to go with 1 gigabit per second because they just don't have enough bandwidth with one Thunderbolt cable. This one can also supply 2.5 gigabit per second, so 2.5 times the performance. And then we have an optical audio output, which is also very unique. So if you want to connect to high-end audio equipment, if you want to have a surround sound setup, or for other purposes, you have that output built in as well. You don't have to use that 3.5mm jack, but you do have another one on the back if you want to split up your microphone or speakers, or if you want to have a port in the front for headphones and then a port on the back for a set of speakers. Once again, only the front port supports microphones. So that brings us to our full 20 ports on this bad boy. And with the ability to have all of these ports and with really good bandwidth, why would you want to have a dock that only uses one cable with Thunderbolt chip that has to slow things down when you can have 2 Thunderbolt 4 chips with a dual connection? which does not limit you. So with that said, what do I have plugged into my setup? Well, on my desk, of course, I have my MacBook and I have the Max chip in there, so I have support for a lot of displays. And then I also have my 6K display plugged into that. So typically I use one very large display. And then I plug into that server that I talked about, which has 120 terabytes of storage, which our editor and Vadim also plugs into. Now on top of that, I have my desktop speakers plugged in on the back. And I also have a UPS station plugged in one of those USB ports, which communicates to my Mac. And then I have my CF Express card reader plugged in as well, and that thing gets full performance. Those cards are insanely fast and they are not limited by the ports that are on this thing, which is really nice. And I use both that reader along with the SD and micro SD to have full connections to my MacBook when I'm dealing with video and audio files. Now, I also have a lot of other ports available, so when I need to plug in an external SSD, I have no issues if I need to plug a couple of them in. I'm not limited. Also, cables for charging my phone or my wireless mouse or my keyboard. I can also plug that in without having to fumble or unplug something from my MacBook in order to be able to plug that in. So when I come into my office, I just set my Mac down and plug in that one cable that has 2 Thunderbolt connections in it, and I have access to everything that I need, which is a single plug-in, including that display, all the accessories, and my MacBook gets charged at the same time. And that is a huge selling point of the dock, making it very easy to be able to set up at your desk and then unplug your laptop and be able to take it with you on the go. Now, I mentioned the quad display support using my MacBook, but of course that does vary depending on what kind of Mac you have. So here is the full sheet of support so you guys could see it. You could do quad displays. You can also do triple 6K, and then you could do a 4K display if you have a Max chip. Now, if you have a Pro chip, you can go all the way up to dual 6K displays with that setup. And that also applies to Mac Mini with the M2 Pro chip. But if you're not using the port for video transmission, they aren't wasted, as they could be used as 40 gigabit per second Thunderbolt and 15 watt fast charging ports. Now, if you have an M1 or the M2 chip, Apple limits the amount of displays that you could output. You have the one internal display, and then you could do one additional external display. And that could be a single 4K, a single 5K, or a single 6K display with those M1 and M2 equipped Macs. So if you have one of those, you can't output quad displays, but you still have access to a ton of different ports with this dock. And then of course you are future-proof if you update later to a Pro or a Max chip, or if the M3 allows to have more external displays, which is what we're hearing, you'll be able to keep this dock long-term, and then it will have more functionality later down the line. So from all the docks that I've seen on the market and the ones that I've used myself, and I've used probably about 3 of them over the last few years, this thing has the smartest design with really good cooling. It has a ton of ports that are not limited because of bandwidth issues, since you have that cable that has dual Thunderbolt connections in just one cable. And even though it's using dual with 2 Thunderbolt 4 chips built into this, well, it's still just one cable that you plug in with iVANKY's design and that cable that they give you. So if you guys want to get something that is the most powerful, flexible, kind of future-proof design for Apple Silicon Macs, well, this is what you want to get. Go ahead and check out the link down below to get a really good deal on this dock. You can pick one up. Let me know your thoughts on it. Click that circle above to subscribe and check out one of those videos right over there.